Welcome. Namaste. Hello, everybody. It's nice to see you already here. Hello to Woven Pixel. Janine, hi. Hi, Mallory. Jen. Kitty Cat. Tammy Pie, hello. Kristen, hello to you as well, too. And Donna's here. Hello, Donna. Snowy evening here in New York. That's good. I'm glad you are cozy, I know. And welcome to Well-Tempered Claire. Andrew, hello. Oh, yes, I know we've had some really nasty weather in different parts of North America. And I want to send light and warmth and heat to our friends in Texas. It's been very, very challenging there. And I know a student couldn't come to class last night because there's no power and other things are going on. So we have to be grateful, don't we, when we have lights and heat and warmth. Yeah. So summer for those of you on the other side of the equator, but winter here is taking its toll on some people. So welcome tonight. And I want to say that I was I'm hoping I can be not too emotional tonight and just really share with you what came up for me when I watched Tom's video. Tom Benjamin did a video. The title is in the thumbnail, "The Art is Not the Card." It's a very, very provocative title. And so I hope that it also got you thinking as well too, what does that mean exactly? The art is not the card. And so I'm going to expand on that and I'm going to share my thoughts. I have a few cards on the table. Had I had more time, I would have got way more decks out, but I've got enough that we can talk about some of the cards. And I'm going to give you some specific things that Tom covered in his video. And then we're going to just really expand on this concept. You know, what does this mean? The art is not the card is not the art. What is the art? What is the art? What does the art mean? How do we hold and how do we weigh the art, the artist's take on the art versus where the historical decks have come from, whether it's an RWS, a Tarot de Marseille, or a Thoth deck, or some other system altogether. You know, like how do we weigh our background knowledge versus the freedom of the artist? And so these are some of the things that we are going to talk about tonight. Oh, you read my comment? Yeah, I did. I commented on Tom's video and I can't remember what I said exactly. I should have really cut and pasted it here. But I will, I'm sure I will say something very, very similar. Luna's from Frozen, Texas. Hello to Luna. I hope that you are okay. Oh my goodness. It's a snowstorm. There is no power in major cities. People have been without power for ages. Apurva, hello. Yes, so if there's any Texans in the chat, you can go ahead and just let everybody know what's been going on. But horrible weather, and a lot of people without light and heat for several days is what I hear. Yeah. So I feel very, very fortunate. Okay, let me just go back. So I was watching Tom's video and I was writing like crazy things that he was saying and I was getting all riled up. What do you mean the art's not the card? The art is everything. The art is so important. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to write down a few things and I'm just going to start calmly and not too emotionally and just share a few things with you. So here's just a few things I just wrote down now. If the art is not the card, what is the art? Color has a frequency and we respond to its energy. Sacred geometry, lines, hexagrams, pentacles have a frequency and we respond. Roses, owls, open books, closed books, blood, wheat are visual links to our connection with consciousness, and we respond. Water, fire, the sun, moon, lunar phases, planets, or even planetary symbols all carry a frequency, and we respond. And so if we break down the art into shapes and colors and symbols, each of those things is a link. It's a visual representation that triggers something in our subconscious that connects us to something greater than we are. And it's very different for everybody. This is something that I studied. I might have shared something similar with you when I was doing one of my Yoga Nidra teacher trainings. And there's a part of Yoga Nidra where, in some of the disciplines, where you list visualizations, and you list them quite quickly, like fluffy white cloud, blue sky, mountain peak, flowing river, ice. And you can also list things that aren't so beautiful, right? You could focus on the thorns on a rose. Some of the Indian scripts include things like symbols or situations in a cremation ground or so forth, a skull. And so during a Yoga Nidra, you list these visualizations. And the idea is that you don't get attached on any of them one too long, but you just go through them, and they may or may not trigger something. In our depending on how well you know your students, what I was taught is that it's important to be aware that certain symbols can trigger things deeply. And so it's really important to know your students and what you're listing in these visualizations. And so we never know what certain symbols are going to trigger for somebody. And when a tarot card, and tonight we're talking about tarot, we're not talking about oracle cards. When a tarot card has a symbol, like if you just close your eyes for a moment and you think of all the different devil cards you've seen, from the boy next door to a very sexy young man, to an older man offering a child an ice cream cone, to some kind of scary vampire looking, or something more like you would see on a Tarot de Marseille. I mean, so many different images of what the devil is. And then you look at the Celtic decks, where you might have somebody who looks more like, I don't know, one of my daughter's friends. You know, they just came home from a festival, and you see the long, straggly hair, nature man, you know? So, you know, there's a lot of different ways to represent every single one of the cards. And I had a conversation. So this came up during the 7 days of compassion. And I was working with a very triggering deck for me. And I believe it was on the last day or the second to last day, I had the Strength card. And in the Strength card, it's 50 Shades of Gray. And it kind of really upset me. Also, the waist of the woman in the Strength card is severed. And so why don't we just start with strength? You know, let's just start and have a conversation about strength. So in that card, with the navel center, the Manipura chakra being severed, if you don't have that in your repertoire, if you don't have the background information about the solar plexus chakra being connected to strength and will, if you don't have a lot of, you know, information about that, you're not going to really be aware of that, why the torso, the upper body and lower body are separated there. It might have nothing to do with why Jeremy Hush separated it there, but that's something that just came to me very, very naturally. The sexual connotations throughout the deck, I wanted to have a conversation with them. I wanted to see if I could bring in a layer and teach myself and to unravel something that I'd never seen before. And so what I want to put out there tonight is that the art is an opportunity to see things from a different perspective. The art is a way to connect to something we haven't seen before. And when an artist goes and either paints you into a very specific corner or becomes very, very abstract, I think we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to bring in new things and to learn new things about an archetype, right? Archetypes are not simple. There are many, many layers to archetypes. And if we think of the archetype of mother and the third key in the tarot of the Empress, and also, so we have the archetype of the mother. We also have within that card the archetype of the Empress. Two different archetypes, but they're both very much part of that card. There's a lot of layers there. And so depending on how the card is depicted, certain things are going to trigger you. And I know a lot of people get triggered by that pregnant belly. And it's just something that I've heard many, many times over and over again. And in the Strength card, people who are not comfortable with animal violence don't like those cards where that woman is yanking that lion's, controlling the lion. I want to see that inner resource of strength. To me, strength is strength, no matter how you draw it. But the art informs and takes us in a really beautiful, beautiful direction. So, and before I go back to the chat, because I want to see what you're saying, the other thing is this takes years. You can be reading for tarot for 20 or 30 years and still learn. There's so much to learn about tarot. We never are finished learning. And we also are understanding of the power and our own resonance with each of the archetypes. And certain archetypes in different lifetimes, I believe, are going to have prominence, more presence in our life. And so we get to know those ones better. We get more comfortable with those ones. But yeah, I don't think we can make a blanket statement like that. The art is not the card. I think if it's intended to provoke and to start conversation, that's one thing. But I think we need to expand a lot. All right, so I'm just going to go back, and Gerald is here, and Gerald is listening. And I'm going to go quite far back. Leanda is here. Hello to Leanda. It would be really great if you want to put anything in caps. That would be amazing, because there's quite a few comments. I saw that the comments scrolling. And I know you are talking about the situation in Texas. I saw those comments, so that's really nice. It's wonderful that we have this community to support each other during these challenging times. All right, so I'm going to go to, actually I should go to I've got both chat windows open, so I'll do my best to please tag me or please put things in caps. I sometimes don't look at the artwork of a card if I'm mainly working psychically, but otherwise I notice details and it takes me off into other places. Yeah, so how about the rest of you? You know, how is there if you could give it a percentage, is there a percentage, it's a funny question, that the art affects you? Do you allow the art to affect you? Let's go to Donna's comment. Love this discussion about art of cards. As an artist and also a tarot collector, why else do we all have so many decks if not for the love of art? A very good question. I mean, I totally love the art. Tammy Pie says, I love unraveling. I love a deck that doesn't faithfully follow systems and connects with line and color. Of course, yes, archetypes have unlimited layers that not one deck can encompass everything, and therefore different interpretations from every tarot creator. These are all beautiful, beautiful reflections. Thank you. Hello to Kyle Liz. I haven't seen you for a while. It feels like it's been ages. I've seen you in other people's comments, but not here. Okay, so I will, Mallory, I will speak to that. And hello to Mendy. Let's go to Woven Pixels. I'm just going to catch up with your comments, and then I will go and share some of the things that Tom said. Is the art not the reason why we all have so many decks? Why we use so many different decks for so many different reasons, and why each card is a new experience? I love new decks. Mallory agrees with Woven Pixel. And Luna, open your mind. The art is extremely important to me. If I don't connect with the art, I won't use it. It could be the art bothers me, not just pretty art. And Susie reads intuitively. I read intuitively for 10 years before I learned traditional meanings. I was totally influenced by the art, the color, the energy, the design, the interpretation. It read conversations with the art. And then Andrew says, colors, images, art style give off different energy vibration. Okay, so this is what I was alluding to in my initial comments, that there is frequency, right? There is, excuse me, there's energy in, just think of some of the decks you have that have geometry. If you think about a deck like the Wild Unknown, and there's power to all those lines that are close together and the way things move, especially if you're just kind of glancing at decks with a little bit of not perfectly focused eyes. It's really, really incredible. So what I want to say is, I'm just going to go back through some of my notes about Tom's video, and then we're going to look at some cards. Okay. Alrighty. My notes are really, really messy. I was writing fast, but here's some things that Tom said. Give me as little on the card as possible. My brain is cluttered with stuff. He called his title, The Artwork is Not the Card, a Tower Moment. He was talking about the Strength card, and he said, strength as an experience, as an archetype. And then he said, as whatever is the same. I agree that strength is strength, but it's not whatever. There's no whatever. There are so many layers. And I believe even if we're looking at a traditional Tarot de Marseille deck with the Strength card, with the woman plying the jaws apart of the lion, we're going to be connected into universal consciousness. There is some reason that archetype of strength is calling to us. There's so much beyond what we can see and feel and understand. And that regardless of the art, we will, okay, so I agree with this. Regardless of the art, we're going to be connected to the archetype of strength. What it is that we have to learn from that archetype can be informed by the artwork. And also, you've heard me say that some days I will go and I'll pack my bag and I'll go off to do readings. And I don't always know who I'm going to read for, but it always seems to be I have the perfect deck. The perfect card came up for that person and they needed to see that art. That art helped them to understand the archetype. That particular art helped them to make peace, or to integrate a message, or to see their strength, or to see their issue in a different way, more clearly. Just let me, he prefers the word metaphors to archetype, and I'm totally cool with that as well too. I think probably what is underneath everything that he was saying, not decorated, not cluttered, these are the kind of decks that he likes, is that when an artist imposes something on us, and there's certain decks that I also have a hard time working with. It's when the artist draws you into a very specific situation. This can happen sometimes in the Urban Tarot or Poppy Palin's deck, or some of the very realistic decks. It can happen in Jeremy Hush's deck as well too. And we get painted into these corners, and it becomes more challenging to find the archetype. It becomes more challenging to find the big picture because we've gone to this very, very specific picture. And I think that's his point. I think his point is that we need to simplify, because underneath every single card, there's a basic metaphor. And sometimes the art takes us too far in one direction. Perhaps that is what he was saying. I really felt like in his discussion, he did contradict himself from time to time. He said the art is part of the card, not the entirety of, oh no, that was me. Sorry, that's me. The art is part of the card, not the entirety of the card. The numerology, the astrology, all plays a part. Art is not the totality of the card. Okay, so I'm going to just turn the other camera on, and I'm just going to continue to share and to talk. And I'm looking for caps or my name tagged. I will keep my head up as much as possible. Okay. Alrighty, so let's have a look. So one of the cards that Tom was talking about was the Three of Swords or the Ten of Swords. And he was talking about one of the questions was, well, what should I do for my anniversary? And the Three of Swords comes up. And he was saying, well, if somebody's asking that question, it's probably not, look at this bookmark that just fell out of my book as I was getting ready here today. Can you see that? This is from the Lonely Dreamer Tarot. True art lies in reality that is felt. So if a Three of Swords comes up in a question like, what should I do for my anniversary? He was saying, well, maybe you should have a barbecue. You know, it's probably nothing to do with sorrow. Probably nothing to do with grief. And the other thing that he was talking about, which I agree completely, is that if we do ask a question, the cards are always going to answer that question. You know, the cards are not going to answer your question. So the question is really important. And the cards don't necessarily have a story until a question is asked. So let's have a look at the Tower. There's 4 different depictions of the Tower card here. Luna said, so what I meant was that the art has to make me feel. It could be an uncomfortable feeling or good feelings. The art has to move something in my intuition so I can interpret the card. Yeah. All right. The Tower. So what is the metaphor of the Tower? And why does the Tower come at the place where it comes? You know, it comes after the Devil and it comes before the Star. And there's a lot of different ways we can look at it. I've shared my favorite Tower card is the one in the Philarkos Tarot with it looks like Kundalini energy rising. There is a big shake up. There is something that is being transformed. We may or may not be aware of it. Sometimes this can be taken quite literally, and it can represent a lightning strike on a house. It could represent something like that. So in that case, when we decide that the 3 of Hearts is a barbecue, it's not grief, then the card is the art. The art is the card. Because we're taking the picture quite literally. And that happens more often than not. That for me, there's something, if I'm doing a bunch of readings with a group of people, there's going to be a literal meaning that comes up during the day a few times. Moldavite is Tower energy. Hello, Angela. This is an important thing that Kyle is saying. So depending on the surrounding cards, depending on the question, the interpretation will be different. Depending on the body language of the person across the table, you know, the interpretation is going to be different. This doesn't mean that you're going to fall out of an office window, right? So sometimes people get alarmed at the art and they take the art literally. And so once in a blue moon, the art is very, very literal. But most of the time, it's just painting emotion, right? It's painting, what is emotion? Energy in motion. It stirs us up. It gets us to a place where we wouldn't get without the art. Let's look at a few of these nine of swords. I think too, when cards are very, very cluttered with art, sometimes we don't know where to look. We don't know what is important. And on all of these 9 of swords, it's obvious. There's 9 sharp objects, and the 9 of bells, they are these, I don't know if you've ever heard these wind chimes. They are very noisy. They're not a gentle noise. They're super loud. The ones that I'm thinking of anyway. And so when we get to the 7, 8, 9 of any suit, we have a lot of something. We have a lot of swords or a lot of whatever the suit is. And so quite simply, regardless of the art, in this we have 9 swords. That's a lot of thought, or it's a lot of communication, or it's a lot of skewers, right? It's a large number. And so I think this is another thing that we need to remember, is that the small numbers represent a lesser quantity, and the large numbers represent a larger quantity. And none of these pictures are, I would say, overly illustrated. to a specific situation. This one, perhaps there may be some question as to why the swan was chosen, and we can go to the metaphor of the swan song or lots of different things, but not necessarily. You can just take it as a pretty picture and deal with the quantity of swords that are there. And then also the direction. You know, the direction is very much a part of the art. And so if you have cards on either side and these swords are pointing towards something, to me, that usually affects what's going on in a reading. Swords point, and when swords point or wands point, there is often a very loud message that comes through. So what Well-Tempered Claire is saying here in this comment, I find is an important technique, is when artwork overwhelms us and we don't quite know what to do with the artwork because there is so much going on in the picture. I have a couple of techniques that I use. One is I look for common symbols. So for example, this very busy card, these are 10 of Cups. 10 of Cups from the Numinous Tarot. I might look for rainbows. I might look for rainbows in other cards. I might look for other lights or prisms or sunshine, something like that, to help me find something to focus on. What Andrew Well-Tempered Claire is saying is that if you soften your focus, often what you need to focus on will come into, it'll be more obvious to you. And then contrarily, this can be challenging for a lot of people who don't read pip cards. Here we have a lot of cups. What do the cups represent? And so it's important to understand what the cups represent. And perhaps this semicircle is going to speak to something else in the reading. The cards on other side, there may be other semicircles. There may be semicircles to complete a circle. There may be complete circles and incomplete circles. And so I can't say that the art isn't the card. What I want to say is the art definitely affects the reading. Very, very different reading to have the 10 cups arranged in this semicircle than to have them stacked like a champagne tower, for example. This is pagan, other worlds, yes. Let's go to what Kristen Louise is saying here. Tarot reading is partly discursive in that it is a dance with the meaning and the making. You start with the art, go to the mind, back to the art, back to the mind, blend and spiral to get the reading. That's beautifully expressed, Kristen. Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. Very much so. And the thing about the art is that we don't all relate to the humans or the animals that appear in every single deck. So if you're dealing with an animal deck and you're not familiar with the animals in the deck, it's very hard to get to the emotion of it, right? If you're not familiar with that. The same way, if this is not for some reason, this particular circle of friends doesn't feel familiar to you, then it might be challenging. If you look at this card and you see all of these white faces, it might be very, very hard to interpret. So in that case, the art can be distracting. So I'm going to get another 10 of Cups, or just, let me get just another card here. What are we going to next? I'll see if I can get strength in this one. Actually, I'm just going to show a few cards from this deck, because I think this deck is somewhere in the middle of everything that we're talking about. And this is a deck I really haven't started reading with yet. I saw this on Queen Osette's channel, and I'm very, very intrigued. This is the African Tarot. So that is the 5 of Wands, I believe. And here is the 6 of Wands. And there's something about this deck. Oh, we are going to look at, I'll put that one there. That's the 8. Where is the strength card? I'll get that for you. So again, there is a lot to look at, because there is design in the border. Everything is kind of, it's, you know, it's a different kind of line art. And so we may be distracted. It might take time. You know, and I guess there's two kinds of impatience with reading tarot as well too. One is an impatience with understanding everything, and that you're going to be able to perfectly read every card in every reading within 6 months or a year. That's ridiculous. And I've read lots and lots of blogs where people say, well, yeah, I mastered the tarot in 6 months. It's like, you did? Okay. Wow, you must, I don't know, like, I don't understand how anybody can say that. It's just a constant learning practice. This is called the it's called the African Tarot. I'll show it soon on my Brian Wenger has written the guidebook. I haven't shared this yet because I haven't really started working with it. It's a very stunning. These are the card backs. Look, aren't they gorgeous? There's the moon card. Anyway, this is not a walkthrough of the African Tarot, and I will be doing something with this on my channel. It's quite an extraordinary deck. Okay, so let's look at the 8 of Wands. I want to talk about this card. It was hilarious. I loved what Tom said about this card. He was very, I liked the way how he nuanced what he said. It was funny. Okay. Again, a card that has direction. Are the wands moving to the earth? Are they moving to the sky? Are they pointing to something else? Are they creating havoc? Does it feel like a bit of fun? Does it feel like athleticism? 8 wands. What is the number 8? How do you feel about the number 8? What is your association with 8s? This card is not necessarily about speed. It can be about something else besides messages as well too, right? We're getting up there in the numbers. It's 8 fires, 8 pieces of fire, 8 pieces of, yeah, it's a lot of energy. So and you know, when this comes up in a, we were talking about love ratings last night on the, in the Facebook group, and how every single card has a slightly different nuanced message depending on the question. And this is a very passionate card. This is a lot of love, right? This is a lot of love, a lot of fire, a lot of passion. And no wonder after this card, you see the person feeling a little battle worn. You know, we all well, maybe we all haven't, but you know how you feel after you've had a little too much love. You kind of look like the guy in the 9 of Wands. And so we need to remember how important the question and the surrounding cards are, right? So it's very, there's just so many layers. The question he was talking about was, well, obviously you need to get some, or something like that. That was his. I only have 2 strength cards here. To me, the energy of the animal definitely plays into it. And what I was talking about was that inner resource of strength always speaks to me, regardless of how the card is drawn. And I don't know if you can see in the numinous, but the face here is very, very peaceful. And so we have the power in the face of the bear, and the softness in the peace in this face right here. And I don't know if you've ever encountered a boar or not. They are not friendly creatures, very, very dangerous. But here we have that same kind of peaceful energy represented between the woman and the boar. And in a reading, you are going to get, depending on the surrounding cards, an entirely different, possibly an entirely different message. This is a card that can be problematic for a lot of people. We don't want to know about poverty. We don't want to know about financial distress. We want to see a way out of it, or see a way through it. And so what happens in a reading when the 5 of Pentacles is very, very specific? Like in this case, they are burning their books because they're cold, right? It's kind of this is not about burning books in protest. And this card may trigger somebody. I mean, this card would have really triggered my mother-in-law, who grew up in Nazi Germany, where she was forced to burn her books. And so we never know what people are going, what the artwork is, where the artwork is going to take people. Generally speaking, this card is drawn in winter. It is cold. And here in the Crow Tarot, we have, I don't know, I feel we have quite a balance of energy, as above, so below. We have this gold in the center here that can speak to a lot of other things going on in the reading. So I would love to find a revised statement, short statement, not too many words, to clarify the title of the video. And I get that the title is meant to provoke, but I think perhaps just saying the card is more than the art. The card is not the totality of the card is not simply the art. Something like that. And lovely interpretations that you're putting up here. And the other, something that came to me this year was that this is one of those cards where we have a separation between I'm not sure which language I want to use, between our reality and God. There's separation between divinity and our experience, especially in the cards where you see the people in front of the church. And so what has caused that space? What has caused that separation? And we don't really see that in this deck here. I can't read the letters on the building here. I don't know what kind of a building that is intended to be. But there is a sense of isolation in this card. It's a card of separation is what it is. And so whether separation has been a choice or separation is needed, you know, it's not always a bad card. Sometimes we need our space. We really do. Let's do a couple more. Just to kind of think about this. So Hermit. Oh, I should pull out the Hermit card I had last night. I will do that. It might be on the top here. So the Hermit. What is the archetype of the Hermit? And how does the artwork inform? And what about the Lantern? What does the Lantern represent for you? And how much does the Lantern play in, the symbol of the Lantern play into the reading? I mean, these are all questions that if the Lantern is a major archetype and a significant part of the Hermit card, what happens when the Lantern isn't there? I guess that's my question. Yeah. Of course, it's not on the top, the card I'm looking for, naturally. Okay, so I want to go back to the chat and see. This tag does not relate to oracles, no. Yeah, ruins the alliteration. And let's see what Donna's saying here. Maybe he meant why the art does not make the card, as a reminder that it is, as a reminder that there is inherent. Referring to the expression, the clothes do not make the man. Yes. Okay, so what if the Hermit is not a wise old man? What if the Hermit is, I'm thinking of Sasaribito. Sasaribito is a wise Asian woman, I believe. This is the one that came up for me last night in a reading. This is the Lily White Tarot. And so here, I mean, this card to me is a very important card in the tarot. As a yogi, this is part of a journey. It's a part of a journey to a place, a chosen place of aloneness for spiritual sanctuary. And in this one, you can see the shape of the yoni here. Actually, you know, it's like very, very. We do have a lantern, but this is a very feminine energy compared to the usual masculine energy of the Hermit. And so how does the artwork affect the metaphor? Does the artwork affect the metaphor? Okay, Sasaribito is not the one I'm thinking of. Okay. Sasaribito is a deck. Now I forgot the question I asked. Oh, I asked, does the does the artwork shift the metaphor? Does the artwork have the power to shift the metaphor? Kristen's referring to this one. There's a sadness to this card where there isn't a sadness to the other cards. The Hermit, I'm going to Luna, open your mind. The Hermit with the lamp means you are on the right path on seeking enlightenment. He also disassociates from the world and he knows to find himself. No lamp means he hasn't found his path. Okay, so here's an example that if you look at the way that Luna is describing the meaning of the Hermit card, this is one of the things that I have learned to become a little more flexible on. And I'm not picking on you, Luna, at all. But when you say the Hermit with the lamp means blank, it sounds like that's the only thing it means. And that is one of the meanings. And what you're saying is completely right, 100% right. And it's one of the layers. The Hermit, like the Empress, like many, many other cards, has many, many layers to it. And depending on where you are in the world, depending where you come from, depending on the question, depending on the surrounding cards, the journey may be emphasized, the light, the illumination, the spiritual illumination, enlightenment may be emphasized. If there are a lot of grandfather type archetypes in the reading, it might have something to do with that. There's so many things that we can pick up on. And so I try to be very careful, especially when I'm teaching tarot, to say that this means this. Because just as soon as I say this means this, I'm reminded of another layer. And reading intuitively for me has opened up a lot. It's opened up a lot of a much, much wider perspective into the tarot and what certain cards might mean. I think this is the last one I pulled for you. This is a few Ace of Pentacles. My first tarot deck that I really spent a lot of time with was the Robin Wood Tarot. And I loved the Ace of Pentacles in that deck. It just really felt like the beginning of a journey, a whole new opportunity into something fresh. And I don't think there's another deck that I feel the same way about that this card. And perhaps that is a very, a Wiccan slant. But here in the Numinous Tarot, we are entering into a labyrinth. This is a grimoire. And in a way, this kind of reminds me of what I remember from the Robin Wood Ace of Pentacles. So yeah, I think this is an important conversation. Hello, Sebo. Thank you, Luna. Let's just, I want to kind of tie this up and wind this up and leave you with adventure and optimism. And so when there is less on the cards, like in a pip deck or in a Tarot de Marseille, there's an opportunity to really tap into your experience and resources with numerology, astrology, quantity, basic primary, well, they're not all primary colors. You know, there's a power in the simplicity of pip decks. I have one right here that is anything but simple. And to me, this card, the art is so important in this card. Not only the color scheme, the watery energy in this card, the watery colors have a power, they have a frequency. And so perhaps in the chat now, you can type, you can start to formulate some words. What is the art? If the art is not the card, what is the art? And so right now, why don't you each write, the art is blank, 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 because I think that would be really helpful to people. If anybody watches the playback, here's the beautiful Ace of Pentacles. This is the crystal tarot that has been trimmed, in case you're wondering what I'm showing you. And the as above, so below, I will be doing a video. And I know Kelly, Truth and Story Kelly, has done a comparison video of the of several decks with the Picard miners. And how can you not be affected by the opulence of the silk gown of this empress? She's not an empress, she's the Queen of Pentacles, but she looks like an empress to me, right? And how do I know it's silk? I know it's silk because it's the way it's standing. You know, silk doesn't tend to flow. It's the way it bunches up. And so that's something that I know, because I've worn silk saris, I've worn silk kimono. I'm a seamstress. The fabric has an energy for me. So what is the art? I want to ask you, if the art is not the card, what is the art? Love this. Oh, hello, Joseph. Mythical Creatures is an elaborate artistic pip deck. The art is the soul of tarot. The art is a vehicle for intuition. Beautiful. Art is the faceted expression of the archetype. The art is a feeling. The art is the heart. Let's go to what Susie is saying here. Why do people feel a need to see ourselves in the art? Surely the art would be irrelevant. But the art is a desire we have to see ourselves. Okay. The art is a portal. Beautiful. The art is a visual representation of the energy of the card. I agree that the art is part of the card, not its totality. Yes. Yes. No problem, Sue. You don't need to apologize. Hello, West Star Tarot. The art is a visual and emotional expression of the archetype. These are all excellent. So beautiful. The art is your expression of spirit. And Donna liked what Fancy Weasel said. The art is a portal. Art is a mirror of all that is. Wow. This is so beautiful. And I'm just going to share with you that quote from Odilon Redon that was on this bookmark that fell out. So this is a beautiful bookmark that came with my Lonely Dreamer Tarot. And I have had such beautiful readings with that deck. True art lies in a reality that is felt. And I think this is why the energy healers, the yogis, they say over and over and over, emotion, energy in motion. We need to keep the energy moving to stay healthy. And so there's something about art. The art keeps that energy in motion because it moves things in us, right? It moves. We respond to it. I opened with a bunch of phrases and I said, and we respond, and we respond, and we respond. And sometimes that response is subconscious. Sometimes that response is unconscious. We don't know that we've tapped into the Akash, right? We don't know that we've tapped into it, but it's there. And maybe we're doing a reading and just something flows out of our mouth. And it's like, whoa, where did that come from? I've never said that before. Or you read a word in a foreign language and you know exactly what it means. You don't speak the language. Or I imagine some of you are mediums. And when you're doing mediumship, sometimes foreign words come through. Or you do things or you say things that you couldn't do. You sing a beautiful note or you speak a foreign language. This has nothing to do with the art. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this, that the art provokes, the art stimulates, the art inspires, right? The art inspires and it creates connection. And I love that. Fancy Weasel? No. What is I gotta go back. I need to find your channel name. Is it Fancy where did it go? I'll go down to the end, see if I can find it. The one about the portal is really beautiful, as are they all are. Oh, that's so beautiful, Donna. This is such a great discussion, taking me to many deep places to ponder in my heart, like Mary. Art captures the lusciousness of life, both dark and light. And I think it's really beautiful. Like we all read in a different way, and some of us respond to art differently. And isn't it Fancy Weasel. Fancy Weasel, you've never been here before, so welcome. And some of you, who else is the first time tonight? Is there anybody else that was the first time? So welcome. Yeah. Anyway, just it's a great discussion, and I encourage you to, I don't know, watch Tom's video. I linked it below, and he says he's writing a book on this topic. Yeah, he's got 2 books in the go, so he's writing a book on this topic. So maybe just write this as a journal prompt. I think it's a really good prompt to do some reflection in, and not just for 5 minutes, but to go back to it a few times. I like to leave pages in my journals with blank spaces and go back to them. And if I've had a reading that's very deep and I know I'm going to need to go back to it in a week or in a couple of weeks and write some more, I always leave spaces. I like to leave room to go back and to add the layers of all of that. Yeah. So thanks for being here with me tonight. This has been an amazing discussion, and I know there's always more to say. I'll be back a couple of times this weekend. I'm going to do some more videos on the Wildwood. Tomorrow night is book club. For those of you that aren't part of the Sadhana's Healing Room Facebook group, the link is in the description box below under more offerings by Sadhana. It's there. and you're welcome to join. We're just kind of winding up a couple more weeks with Holistic Tarot, and then we're going to move on to a book on shamanism. Lots of great things happening in the Facebook group, so please join us there if you're interested. And in my Read With Me Level 1, there's 1 space left. Read With Me 2 is not necessarily a sequential course, it's a different topic. So Read With Me 2 is focusing on cycles, seasons, timing, and tarot. And there are 4 spaces left in that class. Yeah. Lots of stuff on my shop. So go ahead and check out integrativehealingwithsadhana.com and go to the shop or the services. And yeah, I'd love to connect with you in another way. See your face. Good night, everybody, and have a lovely evening, and I will see you all soon, I hope. Namaste.